Amidst the growing controversy, Natasha has made a very shocking revelations that she has the evidence to nail Akpabio, the Senate president. Now, some persons may have wondered the boldness and the tenacity, the eagerness, the courage Natasha has summoned to make this public, because considering the position of Akpabio as the Senate President of the 10th Assembly, it is quite precarious to make such allegations without evidence to back up your claims. Now, Natasha has come to say, I have strong evidence, enough evidence to nail Senator Godswill Akpabio over the alleged sex harassment. It's quite a very disturbing development, as Akpabio has reached out to Ahmed Bola Tinubu to rescue him from this unfortunate dilemma. Perhaps Akpabio never saw this coming, but as the development keep, of course, coming, and we are seeing that it's a very precarious moment and a very critical issue that must not be swept under the carpet, just as the former Senate President Saraki has raised concern that Akpabio should step down, of course, for the investigation to commence. Just like Atiku as well have raised such concern, and several other persons are saying Akpabio has a moral burden to prove, of course, his innocency, depending on the determination of the investigation by the Discipline and Privileges Committee of the National Assembly. An independent body investigation should be set up to ascertain, of course, the veracity of this assertion by and allegation by Senator Natasha. And to make that worse, as if we have not seen the end, the husband to Senator Natasha has come to say that Akpabio broke his promise to stop embarrassing his wife, as he privately met Akpabio, asking him, please, to stop embarrassing my wife sexually or otherwise. It's quite unfortunate that he claims that Akpabio has broken his promise that he will no longer embarrass or sexually harass his wife. This is quite interesting, as Natasha is being suspended to face the Senate Disciplinary and Privilege Committee. It's quite a very important issue to discuss. Perhaps Natasha is considering taking a pound of her own flesh, of course, the pound of flesh from Akpabio, who has insulted her person and sexually abused her, or trying to condition her or in such a psychological and emotional trauma. Well, she has come to say this is the end of Akpabio, as Akpabio foresees the possibility of being impeached with these weightier allegations, and if eventually Natasha has substantive, concrete evidence to nail him, well, that could be the end of his political career. And you know what that means? Possibly might end up in jail and will be dragged eventually to pay heavy fine or compensation for such. Now, it is quite interesting to know that Akpabio and the husband of Natasha have known for more than 15 years before Natasha was married to the Udwara, or whatever he's been called, Emmanuel or so. It's very unfortunate that this is degenerating to this messy extent. It is a very messy situation. Now, we can say that prior to this time, they have built, of course, their family relationship or their intimate relationship, and eventually this will destroy a long established relationship. And more to this, because it will create an enmity between both families, and eventually that will sour the situation. Now, the question is, what has been the interest of Akpabio? If truly he has a relationship with the husband of Natasha, why should Akpabio want to take an advantage of Natasha being the wife of his friends? Why should Akpabio consider a such level of exploitation or trying to condition, of course, the wife of his friend just to satisfy his quest or personal interest? Well, all this will be proven before the court of law, as Natasha has made it very clear that she has enough evidence to nail Akpabio, and eventually, Akpabio has to step down for the Deputy Senate President from the North to assume position, pending on the determination of the investigations and, of course, recommendations or whatever, perhaps the litigations that may follow suit, whatever be the case. There is fire on the mountain, and some persons may not understand there is an undertone to this. Perhaps those who oppose Akpabio's presidency as the 10th Senate Assembly, President of the 10th Senate Assembly, might seize this opportunity, of course, to hit him back, and eventually it could be a ploy to lure Akpabio to the point of slaughter. And eventually this might be paying off, because the oppositions and the vested interests might cash in and use such opportunity to take him out of the way and eventually establish their own dynasty and the program. Perhaps the main target might be the president, Ahmed Bola Tinubu, who, of course, one of his major strong allies, might be going down as a result of this allegation of sexual harassment. And eventually, you don't have to cover everything. Perhaps it might get to the point that Tinubu has to hands off and allow the process and the rule of law to take its course. Whatever be the case, if eventually Akpabio is suspended or impeached, eventually, you know what that means. One of the Tinubu's strongest allies has gone down, and eventually anyone who emerges as the Senate President might be working with the opposition to get Tinubu impeached as well. So Tinubu is not, Akpabio is not just the primary target, but they're using Akpabio to get to Ahmed Bola Tinubu, and eventually, if they succeed in this, perhaps the second bid of Ahmed Bola Tinubu might be truncated by the so-called enemies or the Fulani oligarchs, that's like the likes of El-Rufai, ganging up against the second re-election bid of Ahmed Bola Tinubu. He has so many enemies and so many contentions to surmount, and eventually becomes re-elected. But then they are fighting using every opportunities, of course, they can, to make sure that they frustrate his effort. Well, perhaps he might maneuver, of course, these hurdles and eventually scale through. Only time will reveal as we continue to watch and see things unfold. It's rather unfortunate that Akpabio perhaps have been trapped into this snare. But who knows? Perhaps there could be a magic wand, or how he intends to escape this allegation. But whatever be the case, what is more worrisome is that Natasha has said she has enough evidence to nail Akpabio, the Senate President. Well, some who may be calling for the resignation or impeachment of Akpabio might be doing that, of course, with certain intentions or motive. But whatever be the case, of course, it is in the right direction for Akpabio to step down, because he can't preside over his own case. If being found wanting, he should step down pending on the outcome of the investigation, and eventually whatever happens will only be defined in time.